briefly about what the difference is between the Serve This Customer button and the Serve button below, and which is appropriate in kind of which circumstance. So prior to the pandemic, we only had the e-signature button or tab and the Serve button. And mostly it was the e-signature button that was used. The customer's in front of you, they've got their food or they're going to get their food, and you take them to the e-signature, they put in their initials, and they click I agree. Once the pandemic started, and obviously social distancing, contactless was imperative, we installed the Serve This Customer button, which took the place of the e-signature in terms of, obviously we don't want them to be using keyboard, and so now you're responsible for clicking that or pressing that, but it serves the exact same function as the e-signature. The e-signature timestamps that moment in time as it's meant to replace an ink signature, and while that maybe doesn't have a timestamp attached to it, we want to make it very clear that this signature was rendered at this point in time. And so to address the questions about when you have a different date, so today's date is 2/11/2021, but if you were trying to record a different service and you changed it to the 8th, we'll go ahead and do that now. I click Serve This Customer, and it brings it to the 11th. The same way that the e-signature button did, or the e-signature tab, e-signature process did before, the Serve This Customer button does performs the exact same function. It brings it to that exact moment in time, February 11th, 2021, 5:11 p.m. Now, not everybody is seeing customers in real time and rendering that Serve This Customer process. And so if you are capturing it on paper still, what is the process? So we'll go ahead and we'll make another service here. So really it's no different than what it was before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, if you were coming on the system, or again, if you weren't doing e-signatures, if you were doing paper, you came down here to this Served button. And it gives you a little kind of message here about what's happening, why you should use this, and if you should use this. The point being that if you're using that button, you are saying, I have signatures on paper, and that's when you probably want to use this button as well. Now, if you don't have them on paper, and maybe you have some other kind of special allowance, I'm not sure of all the scenarios and the particulars, but just to understand the fundamental difference between these two buttons and how they will change it. And maybe a better example is kind of how we did it before. So if I change this to the 8th again, and I click Served, the date stays the same. So now I come to Stein Paper Form, and if I leave this, I reload the page here. So I do have two of them, so that was that first e-signature right here, and the second was the signed paper. And again, this is 2/11. But if I come back to the 8th, then I have something recorded for the 8th. So hopefully this kind of alleviates some of the confusion, answers kind of the question of which button to use in which scenario and what does what. But again, Serve This Customer when you're serving them right now. When you want to say the customer is in front of me, or if you're recording services for later that day, again, given the circumstances of the pandemic, it's not in the same way that we wouldn't want to put in e-signatures after the fact, because it should only be the customer putting an e-signature in. We don't necessarily want to advocate for serving this customer later via that button. But that being said, it's a strange time, and so if it's just after the fact, that can probably be okay as well. But probably want to use the Serve button because it's not really at that point in time. hopefully this is clear now, and everybody will know what to use in the future.